Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. I'm Colin, and today we're going to be doing a review of the brand new Glass Animals album, I Love You So Fucking Much. This is the fourth release from UK indie pop dance band Glass Animals. I'm going to be doing a review of not just the album itself, but also the physical release. I got the Decagon vinyl, and I definitely have some thoughts, so let's dive in. So first off, I'm just gonna say I absolutely adore Glass Animals. Their debut album Zaba is probably one of my favorite albums of the past decade. I think they just had their 10-year anniversary, so maybe it's a little past a decade at this point. The follow-up, How to Be a Human Being, I thought was also really good. I didn't like it quite as much. I loved the kind of psych pop experimental style they had on Zaba, and I could see them going a bit more mainstream with their sound and style on How to Be a Human Being. And then obviously with Dreamland, their third release, they got a lot more mainstream, dropped a lot of their experimental style. Was pretty much just a straight up, just like dream pop, indie pop album. Obviously had some of their biggest hits on it, including Heat Waves, which went global. And I was hoping that on this fourth release, they'd kind of go back a little bit and maybe get a little bit more of their original flavor and style, and unfortunately that did not happen. But before I dive into my thoughts on the album itself, let's talk about the release. So like I said, I got the Decagon vinyl. This is probably one of the most unique shapes, packages, and just physical releases I've ever seen a band do. And when I first saw it, I thought it was really cool. I was like, hey, that's super unique. I like the idea. I like the concept. They advertised it as a very limited press. And I am a sucker for anything that's unique and limited, or at least if you tell me it's unique and limited, I'm going to be a sucker for it. And boy, was I suckered, because this is arguably the worst design packaging for a record I have ever seen. I get that it looks cool. I get that it's unique. But maybe there's a reason that no one's done this before. I mean, first off, it is just annoying to open. So you have to unfold all these flaps, and then, like, it basically then just flaps open. So once this is unfolded, it's pretty much just a single piece of cardboard. On the inside, you got a few things. You've got the sleeve with the actual record itself. You have like a lyric sheet, like a little insert. All, of course, in the Decagon style. The novelty of this wears off very quickly because it's annoying as hell to fold back up. And I'm going to be completely honest, I don't like this album enough to continuously open and close this. I listened to it a couple times in preparation for the review. I've streamed it a couple times, so I've got a pretty good grasp on the album and the handful of tracks that I want to listen to again. So after this video, I'm going to be pretty much putting this on my shelf, chalking it up to a weird, unique record and packaging, and maybe include it in one of my most unique record videos. But outside of that, I don't see myself actually getting this out and playing it all that often. The record itself is also a Decagon. It's not the most convenient shape for a record player. It's not 12-inch, it's not 7-inch, so I've got one of those automatic arms that places the needle for me. So I have to manually do this one, which I know is a small thing, but it's still kind of annoying. Also, this record was filthy when I got it. I mean, I always clean my records before playing them for the first time, but goddamn, this thing was just covered in dust and microfibers and little bits of vinyl left over from the pressing. And overall, guys, it's a really disappointing release. Outside of like the annoying shapes and the just absolute mind-blowingly stupidity that went into trying to create something fun and unique and ended up just creating something annoying, the sound quality is not very good either. It honestly has got some cracks and pops in it that I prefer most new releases not to have. It also is very low. There's a lot of, I don't know what it is, but the last like 5 or 6 years, every now and then I get a couple pressings where the volume is just really, really low. And so I have to turn my speakers almost up to the max, which I don't like doing. The physical release of this is very disappointing. I will say I'll give it some credit that it did come out. I got this probably on Wednesday of this week. The album came out last Friday. So I got it like 4 or 5 days after the record was released, which is fine. You know, I do prefer having the physical release a little bit closer to the actual digital release of an album. I think that in today's day and age, especially getting out of COVID, we're not having the backups that we did a few years ago at the pressing plants. You should be able to get it pretty tight. But you know what? Less than a week, I'm not going to complain too much. That's still pretty good. But yeah, so anyway, that's my thoughts on the physical release. But let's talk about the music itself. I really was hoping for something a little bit more off of this. However, after hearing the first two singles that they released, I gotta be honest, I went into this with very low expectations. I did not think I was gonna like this album, and to be perfectly honest, I don't. There are a couple tracks that did kind of catch my ear, and I think I will probably end up listening to, you know, more frequently or more repetitively than some of the other ones. But at its core, it's very disappointing. I do think that with each release, Glass Animals has gotten a little bit worse. They've leaned too heavy into mainstream pop and you know, dream pop. All their songs are way overproduced. Davey's starting to add some really odd auto tuning to some of his vocals and adding this like uptick on like ending on a high note and a little like up inflection on a lot of his lines and verses, and it's super annoying. I really wanted this album to be good, or at least better than Dreamland, because I liked Dreamland, but I definitely think it was the weakest release they had done. But compared to I Love You So Fucking Much, Dreamland seems like a pretty coherent album now in retrospect. The album starts off with a track called Show Pony, which is pretty much just a straightforward, like, dream pop, indie pop song with a very forgettable chorus and verse. It has a very basic song structure of just like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro, which they do end up repeating on a lot of other tracks on this album. I don't feel like there's enough variety throughout the songwriting on this album to actually have it stand on its own. I don't know. I could talk a lot about this first track, but I would just end up repeating the same thoughts and comments on a lot of the other tracks. So we'll just move on to the second track, which is What the Hell is Happening. Now, this track, at least, I think, does have a little bit of a unique instrumental backing to at least a couple sections of the song. I still think it's overproduced. I think Davey's vocals are annoying as hell on a couple spots of it, but it definitely at least has like some guitar peek through the really basic sort of like synth lines and bass lines that are scattered throughout the album. But I gotta say, the falsetto that Davey uses, the auto-tune falsetto in both the chorus and the bridge in the song, are awful. I don't know why he felt the need to do this. I think his voice has always been one of the best parts of this band, and to try and make it different or better, or for whatever reason more alien sounding, I guess, since this whole album is like a space theme, it just doesn't work for me. The few tracks on here that I really do like are mainly because I think he is using his natural voice more. He's not only doing falsettos and like trying to hit those high notes, and it's not, again, not overproduced, doesn't have the auto tune on it, and this song in particular has way too much of that. Somehow the bridge in this is more annoying than the bridge to Show Pony. And again, it's very much the same song structure of just verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro. Which, okay, fair enough. Like, it's a pretty standard song structure, but like, they were always a little bit more unique. And I do expect and almost demand more creativity from a band that I've had such high expectations of in the past. Then from that track it goes into the first single they released on the album, Creatures in Heaven, which after hearing this song, my heart sank. I had very high hopes for this album. A couple of the snippets and the teasers that they had released leading up to the single definitely intrigued me. I mean, they were very spacey, sort of like 80s influenced synth lines. And, I thought that they would be really good as like, intros or, transitions between songs. And what ended up happening is that it seems like they just took those sounds and that style and just literally put it everywhere on the album and have very little variety. And again, Creatures in Heaven, I mean, you could almost cut and paste the lyrics from the chorus of Creatures in Heaven with Show Pony, and they would still sound pretty much exactly the same. I mean, there's very, very little differentiation between the Show Pony chorus and Creatures in Heaven. I don't know. It feels like every single line too here, he's hitting just this like upswing on his inflection with like this auto-tuned high note, and it's just terrible. I don't understand the reasoning that went into this. So luckily on the fourth song, Wonderful Nothing, it does change it up a little bit. I think the intro section is a little bit too long, but the beat is fun, and it comes in and it actually feels like a little bit of a breath of fresh air, even though it's only fourth track on the album, where the at least instrumentals feel a little bit different in the beginning, but it does kind of just get right back into that same dream pop sort of formula that they've apparently just decided they want on this entire album. The chorus, or at least certain parts of the chorus, the vocals do feel a little bit more organic and a little bit more confident. But like, I think this was the song where I realized what I was missing from Davy's vocals throughout this album, and that was like swagger. What I loved about Zaba and even How to Be a Human Being is even when he's doing like his falsetto high note stuff, you felt the confidence, you felt the swagger, kind of the bravado that he was bringing in, and that's just missing throughout this entire album, especially on this song. I mean, the lyrics, some of the lyrics are just like, get some attitude, or come back in with a 1-2, sucker punch in the gut, here's a tissue. Like, if you're gonna be singing lines that are that aggressive and like, here I am and I'm here to make a stand and take you down, like, you actually have to put some emphasis on your delivery, and he just doesn't. It falls super flat. I don't know. Again, I see some bits and pieces on this track where I can get a little bit of a swagger, but overall it falls very flat for me. Then we get into Tear in Space parentheses Airlock, which is the second single off the album, and by far my least favorite song. I don't have many positive things to say about this song. The beat is super basic. The drums on this entire album are just really, really disappointing, but especially on this song. This has arguably the most annoying bridge of the entire album, and that's saying something compared to, or considering the bridges that came before it. The chorus is super basic, just like fucking terrible lyrics. Water running down my face, water running different ways, water like a billion waves, water just a tear in space. Like, it's not good. I'm sorry. Even for a song about crying in space, it's bad. And I'd have to say, like, the auto-tune falsetto in this song is the worst on the entire album. It makes it borderline unlistenable, and I cannot fathom either A, how this was the second single that they released, or even B, like, how it ended up on the album. Then we go into I Make You Fall in Love Again. Again, it's just more like copy paste Show Pony. There's nothing unique or interesting about this song. It's not bad. It's not offensive. I can listen to it as opposed to like the previous track, Tear in Space. But again, there's nothing about it that's actually exciting or makes me want to come back and listen to it again. But then we do have a little bit of a high note, which I mean, thank God. If we got through this entire album, there wasn't a single song that I liked, I was going to be even more disappointed than when I found out that they actually repressed the stupid Decagon vinyl and made it less exclusive than when they initially sold it. The next song is called How I Learned to Love the Bomb. And this is actually a song I really do like. So I've got this on a couple playlists. This is one where I'm definitely going to be checking it out over and over again. I think it is the best attempt they've done to kind of go back to their old style, and you get a little bit of Zabba, a little bit of How to Be a Human Being on it. Just a really fun kind of indie rock song. It actually does have some swagger. I think Davey's vocal performance on this is pretty good. I think that it's very unique. It stands out against the rest of the tracks. The chorus is really fun. It's got some punchy, like soulful guitars, less auto tune on the vocals. It's a lot more just natural. And again, like the chorus is super catchy. And this is easily the high point on the album for me. Now, if you are the Glass Animals fan that thinks Heat Waves is the best song they've ever done, this may not be your favorite track. You probably like everything else a lot more. But if you're like me and you're a Zabba nerd and you want them to give you at least a hint of something that's like more akin to that, this is the track for you. And then, we get right back into the same basic bullshit on White Roses. Again, like essentially a copy and paste of Show Pony and Creatures in Heaven. The chorus is borderline interchangeable. Back to verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro. Like, again, nothing unique or special about it. Roses on the red dirt. Like, it's just, the imagery even just falls super flat for me. You can picture a white rose in red dirt, and it's not interesting. So again, I don't know what the plan or thought was with that one, but just another really forgettable track. Then it goes into On the Run, which the vast majority of the song is, again, just the same basic synth lines, drum beats, bass lines that they've used throughout the album, with the exception of the chorus. So chorus is a little bit more upbeat. It's kind of like a repetitive sort of electronic dancey feel, and I don't hate it. I don't know if it's quite enough to save the rest of the song for me, or even like save the rest of the album, but at least it is unique, and it's something different from what we've just gotten on, at this point, 7 or 9 different songs, or 7 different songs if we're not counting this, and How I Learned to Love the Bomb. Then we end with Lost in the Ocean. It's a fine song. It's not bad. None of these songs are actually terrible, with the exception of like I think Tear in Space and just like a couple parts of some of the other songs. But none of them are very good either. They're all very just unoffensive, kind of forgettable, standard modern dream pop or like pop rock. I don't know. I mean, it's a fine way to end the album. It's just unoffensive. It's or inoffensive. I don't know. I'm pretty disappointed with this. I had a lot. Well, like I said, I had a lot higher expectations coming out of Dreamland. Hoping, because at the very least with Dreamland, yeah, they had some pretty basic stuff on it, but they also had some good variety. They had some, really fun tracks as well. And, even if they were going to just continue to go in this, like, kind of more mainstream pop direction, at least I felt like they were trying to experiment and develop their sound and, broaden their horizons a little bit. And instead, we got probably one of the most boring albums of the year, and definitely of the last decade. So I'm feeling, before actually I got this physical released, I was feeling like a C minus on this album. But honestly, just like the absolute atrocity that is this Decagon packaging and record, it brings it down to a D for me. Not one that I'm going to be playing a lot, and again, not one that I highly recommend. If you're into this style of this style of pop and indie pop that they're doing right now, I'm sure you'll like it. But yeah, for me, it's an overproduced, forgettable album, and not one I'm going to listen to again. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Like I said, let me know down in the comments what you think. If you think I'm an absolute idiot and this is the best album ever, let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Peace.